Welcome to the Baron Tipper. The text does not, and on purpose does not, talk about how to hold the tipper. There are many ways and variations, and it's really about what works for you so that the tipper will do what you want it to do. Now, when I hold a snare drum stick, I'll be playing like this. You can see that I'm holding the stick between the thumb and the index finger, very much like we do the tipper. These fingers are also used in percussion, and they bring the stick up and down into the palm of the hand. But if I turn it with the thumb facing me like this, now the thumb, as you can see, is up. Now my fingers are coming up, not bringing the stick this way, into my palm, but now we're going up and down. Bring that in a little closer. So if I take that, I take my stick, slide it all the way down. Now I have this pendulum between my index finger and my thumb. Turn it this way as if I had the Baron here, and we've got what we traditionally use for Baron, or the tipper grip. But now I can use these fingers. As we look at various players, and great players who play incredibly well, you'll see some people with their fingers in behind here, with just using the thumb and index finger. But some people will put the second finger like this. Some people will put the middle finger in underneath, which I find very interesting. And there's a couple of great players that do that. They have that middle finger in underneath. And then there's some that just have everything out like this. Now you'll notice that the snare drum stick is held basically right in here, there and there. And if I turn my hand sideways like this, you'll see that it's out in between the first knuckle, the main knuckle, and the finger knuckle. Some people will hold their tipper way out here and play incredibly well. Some will have it here, and there are those that will have it back in here, and there are those who will have it right up in here. Now that comes from the traditional snare drum grip, when the field drums were on a slant to the player instead of being parallel like this in front of them. So therefore, instead of playing like this, they turned their hand over and they played like this. It became known as the traditional grip. You'll notice that it's way back in here as opposed to out here. But if I move it out here on my index finger, it looks like many of the tipper grips. People like Cormac Byrne tend to put it way back in here and keep it just like the snare drum grip. Oisin Hannigan does that as well. I had a long discussion one evening with him around our grip, and it was so much fun to talk about it. But that's where he comes from. So snare drum playing. So there's a variety of ways of doing it. In the Baron tipper text, we talk about basically two things: primary motion and secondary motion. Primary motion is the use of the wrist. In the case of our Baron, it is the twisting of the wrist. Instead of up and down, it's the twisting. The secondary motion, the use of the fingers to play very fast. The fingers can move very fast. So when we're playing the Baron, it's the use of those fingers, whether there's just one, two, or three, or one behind. It's the use of those fingers to move the stick without moving the wrist. I'm not even moving my wrist. Now, if I move my wrist as well, along with the fingers, it just really opens up a whole world of speed and endurance, and also playing very delicate things without the big motion of the wrist. You just get a little motion of your finger. Tit, 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 very soft. So these are things we can look at, and the idea behind the text is for the exercises to be used with this in mind and being very observant as to what your fingers are doing. My own journey. I started off holding the tipper the way I was told in my first lesson. Played very well for a long time, but I found there were things I just couldn't do. There was some speed I wanted. There was some flourishes, grace notes and rolls and things I wanted. Just they weren't clean. They weren't coming the way I wanted them to. So then I moved up in here, sort of like Cormac Byrne. And I tried that for a while. And it worked for my speed. For me personally, I was missing my accuracy in the way I was getting things to sound. I ended up sort of in the middle here of my finger, in this area here, right in here. Come up a little closer. In here, not out here, not back in there, in this area, with all my fingers around, with the ability of my fingers to move, and then my wrist as well. And that's where I'm at today. So on your journey, fool around, experiment with the different fingers in different places, observe what you're doing, observe the grips that other great players are doing, the people you admire, and maybe that will work for you. But it's a telltale sign when so many great players actually use different ways of gripping the Baron tipper. That's a telltale sign. And I would encourage you to find out what works for you. And you make the choices based on how to get the sounds you want. Take care.